Today is the anniversary of what has truly become a cornerstone of F1 lore. I'm probably going to be late posting this because it's already late right now and I have other shit to do besides edit it tonight, but I just wanted, and I've been wanting for a while, to make a full video on Multi 21 because it's really about more than just Malaysia 2013. To get a full context of the events, it wouldn't be a video by me if I did not insist upon a third of the video being context, but we have to rewind to Brazil 2012. So this is fun context because that's my favorite race of all time. However, something occurred at the start of that race that really reshapes how we should all be viewing Multi 21. So Brazil 2012 was the championship decider, and going into that, the championship standing was as follows. Sebastian Vettel with 273 points. Fernando Alonso was 13 points back, so he is still in contention. The title fight is between them two. Kimi was 67 points back. Lewis was 83 points back, and Mark Webber was 106 points back. So not only is he not in the championship battle, like, he is mathematically eliminated, and by a lot, by 100 points. So the championship math worked out like this. To stand a chance of winning, Fernando had to be on the podium. If Fernando won, Seb had to be 4th or better. If he came 2nd, he had to be 7th or better. And if he came 3rd, he had to be 10th or better. So Fernando qualifies 7th. Not fantastic given that previous situation, but Seb qualified 4th, crucially with Mark in 3rd, which would be extremely relevant. Not for the reason you're thinking of, because in modern day Formula One, it would be without question that the teammate would help their teammate on the start. And that was, as you'll see, discussed at Red Bull, but did not ultimately happen. In fact, not only did Mark Webber not help Sebastian Vettel, well, I'll let Adrian Newey describe it. This is from page 354 of How to Build a Car. Straight away there was drama. Mark, starting alongside Sebastian on the 2nd row, squeezed him against the wall on the inside, meaning that in order to prevent his front wing from being squashed, Sebastian had to drop down to 1st gear, losing his position and costing him momentum. So, while Mark was squeezing Sebastian against the pit wall, Fernando managed to overtake both of them on the outside, and it also forced Sebastian back into the path, and as he'd partially gone over the curb, his car was unsettled, and he made contact with Bruno Senna, racing incident, and well, I'll let you watch.
And it's lights out, and away we go for one more time in 2012. Great start from Hamilton. What a start from Massa, already ahead of the two Red Bulls. Fernando Alonso goes around the outside, and Sebastian Vettel has already lost places, getting caught in no man's land on the inside. Hamilton squirms away from Massa, and Jenson Button, Paul di Resta challenging Sebastian Vettel now as we ride on board down the Retroposta towards the Skido de Lago. It was a cautious start from the championship leader. It has not played out for him. Locking up and brakes, and there goes Kimi Räikkönen wide and off the track.
And was that...
look, it's a Red Bull. It's a Red Bull. It's Sebastian Vettel in the middle of the track. It's the worst possible scenario for Sebastian Vettel, who started on the 2nd row and is now running right down at the bottom of the field. And once again on the opening lap in Interlagos, the championship is blown wide open.
Damage on the left side pod. There's a lot of radiators in there as well. He'll feel low grip.
Okay, that's the victory. I'm coming back. I think I have done it.
Mark Webber's getting a great toe now. Up the main straight we go. Massa from Webber, and Webber pulls out onto the right-hand side, and he might be about to make a move. And here goes Fernando Alonso down the inside, and Alonso has put himself up into the podium positions by the end of the 1st lap. And it is Alonso's game now in the World Championship with Vettel down.
Sebastian, there's visible damage, but stay out to see how the car behaves. We cannot fix it. It's not front wing. We cannot fix the damage.
He can help, and it looks as if Bruno Senna might have been the driver to run into the back of the slow-starting Sebastian Vettel. Right, Vettel got away well enough, but it was in the 2nd phase of that. He's now dropped behind his teammate Mark Webber, and they were just coming at him. He was very cautious down there. Hülkenberg with a great start here, and the Ferrari, as ever, just leaps off the line. That's both of them. And Massa then stealing 2nd place there initially.
Let's look at Mark Webber moving over to the left here. I think he was trying to cover Felipe Massa, who called the double bluff really by going round the outside. And a great start from Massa. The Ferraris have been brilliant starters all season long. Got past Jenson Button, but Sebastian Vettel almost got covered and then blocked, didn't he, by his teammate?
Yeah, he did get a good start, as I thought, but then he looks like he's having to lift out for Mark Webber there, and that's when they steamed all around the outside, and it cost him nearly cost him his front wing there against the Force India.
I mean, I think the footage speaks for itself, to be honest. Mark clearly dove across the track to the detriment of his own start as Fernando passed both of them around the outside. He knew Seb couldn't damage his wing and he squeezed him against the pit wall, took advantage of that, knew he'd have to back out. And so not only did he not help his teammate at the start, as you would expect any teammate to do, particularly one that's 100 points back, but he actively tried to torpedo his chances. Like, that's crazy. And then to turn around and act like you're the victim. And you know I'm committed to this cause because I had to watch 45 minutes of Christian Horner's Grill the Grid interview to get this clip of him talking about it.
The situation got tougher and tougher, of course. You know, it probably culminated end of 2012 when Sebastian was fighting Alonso for the championship and Mark squeezed him up against the pit wall on the start of the race in Brazil. In the championship decider that ultimately resulted in him getting turned around by Bruno Senna and blah, blah, blah. And that was really, Sebastian was hugely angry about that.
Were you?
Yes, because we discussed it before the race, that Mark wasn't in the championship. You know, it was do everything possible to support your teammate. And, you know, on that day he chose, like, he had instinct kicked in. It probably was totally foreign to him to think, I don't want to support this guy. But then there was a hangover of that led into Malaysia.
Multi-21.
Literally 2 races later, split by about 5 months or 4 months. But, you know, so then you've got a situation where you've got Mark in the car ahead, Sebastian on new car tyres and the car behind. The tyres were pretty fragile. We're telling them, right, hold position. And Sebastian thought, fuck you.
Was it for this is payback?
100%.
So Mark actively defied team orders and went against a conversation that had been had with both drivers prior to the start. I would argue that sabotaging your teammate in the championship decider to help your buddy Fernando, I don't know that would need team, or I feel like that's kind of implied, but just in case you were wondering, there was an explicit conversation. And also, a little bonus Brazil 2012 clip, Mark Webber, while he did ultimately move out of the way and let Seb by when there was a multi-12, the reverse of it, during that race, he pretended that he didn't know what it meant.
12, multi-12.
Which switch is that? Which switch? Where's Sebastian?
Let Sebastian go, please, Mark.
Mark Webber taking a very wide line there, lets his teammate scoot past.
So I think it's kind of understandable that Sebastian was upset about this. And it makes what he did next even more iconic. All right, I wrote a little summary of the race up until multi-21, so I'm just gonna read right from that so I don't get anything wrong. Seb and Mark had finished 3rd and 7th respectively in Australia. Arriving at Malaysia for the second race of the season, Seb once again qualified on pole and Mark was 5th. It wasn't raining at the start, but everyone opted for inters. Seb got away, but then he literally got rear-ended by Fernando for no reason. Mark managed to get by both Mercedes and then was battling Fernando for P2. When Fernando's wing, there's a whole Ferrari tangent I could go on right now. They left him out there with this wing and it went under his car, which is super dangerous. Anyway, he's out. Seb and Mark are now 1 and 2. Mark overcut him or undercut him. I'm not reading from the thing. At the first pit stop, and then they held position through the next, it felt like 800 pit stops. But crucially, at the last one, Mark pitted for old hards and Seb pitted for softs. So Seb was faster. And it was at that point that the drivers were told to turn down their engines and hold position. And Seb was like, I'm actually not going to do that, but thank you for the suggestion. I'll show you the clip.
Sebastian, multi-map 2-1, multi-map 2-1. Oh, Sebastian, you need to give him the space. Hold position. This is silly, sir, come on.
And the team bosses are very much saying, do not run into each other.
Yeah, that's the same way.
Okay, Mark, he was told.
Mark Webber regains the lead, but the battle is not over yet, and there is barely a metre between the two cars as down the hill they plunge, and side by side onwards towards the braking zone at turn 4.
Sebastian.
I was really scared thanks to all of the times he was moving, but I had to leave the line. I repeat, I had to get over the line.
That was very close to both cars coming off worse. Sebastian Vettel stays ahead of Mark Webber. The checkered flag comes out and is waved for Sebastian Vettel, who wins the Malaysia Grand Prix. His teammate Mark Webber, who led the race for such a long time, beaten into second place. It's another 1-2 finish here in Malaysia. It's a 13th 1-2 for Red Bull in Formula One.
Good job, Sebastian. Good job. Looked like you wanted it bad enough. Still, there'll be some explaining to do.
So, Sebastian Vettel been told that there'll be some explaining to do at the end of this race. Christian Horner not overly happy, maybe, with the performance of his driver and his world champion here in Malaysia.
Good job, Sebastian. Good job. Looked like you wanted it bad enough. Still, there'll be some explaining to do.
Here in Sepang.
Absolutely brilliant job today, Mark. Very good drive. Well done.
Well done, but only second place for Mark Webber, despite leading a Grand Prix for the 25th time.
This led to possibly the most iconic cooldown room of all time.
Eric Bird scored after being eliminated here in Q1. Let's have a listen to a race winner Sebastian Vettel as he's joined by Webber and Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton looking overly pleased as he walks into that room.
Then if that's because it's a bit damp, still.
Probably helps a little bit.
A little bit. That's a good start.
Mediums were better.
Yeah.
That's pretty obvious.
It wasn't that obvious, that's why we asked you. You
Yeah.
looked that way, but we weren't actually sure.
Yeah, but I had quite a bit.
I think it was the quicker time, wasn't it?
Yeah, and also
Yeah.
Interesting to hear the exchange between driver, technical director.
it's fine for me. It's fine. Now it's fine. See the inside. You can see the inside shoulder. It's translating to
Middle.
Mark Webber finally arriving into the podium room.
Multi-21 then. Yeah, multi-21.
Webber in no mood to exchange pleasantries with his teammate. You rather get the feeling
F1 is like literally filmed in the same style as The Office, and it genuinely gets me every time. Like the way the camera swings to Mark stomping down that hallway, the like hard swing to Sebastian just guzzling water. 10 out of 10, no notes, really Hall of Fame camera work, thank you. As you can imagine, the podium and interviews afterward were equally awkward. Mark was clearly very pissed. Sebastian took a weird, you'll see, I'll just let you see.
Webber wishes to engage in, smiles for the fans, not for his teammate. first place trophy presented to Sebastian Vettel, but was he told to hold station and not challenge his teammate Mark Webber for the race lead? Webber saying to him in the driver's room, multi-21 said multi-21, which is code at Red Bull for hold stations, team orders. After being told that, Sebastian Vettel challenged Mark Webber for the lead and eventually got the victory, which Webber believes should have been his this afternoon. What are the ramifications of this Malaysia Grand Prix? And for Lewis Hamilton, smiles, but maybe he feels that victory could have been his, or he feels bad about what happened to his teammate. We'll find out in a few moments' time, but this might not be the biggest champagne celebration you've ever seen. It's Vettel the winner. Is it Webber the victim? And what of Hamilton and Rosberg at Mercedes? Up to 3 kilos of body weight the drivers lose during this most oppressive conditions. So no wonder they all want to take a swig of the champagne on that podium. And we'll hear from them in a few moments' time with Martin Brundle. One thing is for sure, Red Bull on top of the constructors.
Laps 43 and 44. Take us through that.
Yeah, obviously it was a very close wheel-to-wheel racing. I think there wasn't much room for either of us, so obviously it was a tight battle, but I think probably I was a little bit too keen too soon, because I obviously in terms of strategy was on the soft tyre towards the end, on the softer compound, and felt I had a little bit more, so yeah, obviously enjoyed the fight, had the upper hand in the end, but throughout the whole race I think it was very close. Mark was always a little bit ahead. I stuck in traffic. Yeah, in the middle of the race I wasn't quite sure about the strategy, but towards the end it seemed to work very well, because we were able to save that extra set, and it gave us a little bit more speed.
Now, obviously, there's going to be some friction. We heard on your team radio, congratulations, but there's some explaining to do. I mean, how do you feel about the race itself in that respect?
I think obviously it's very hot today, and I think if there's something to say, we need to talk internally, but for sure I think we both enjoyed that. Of course, I'm standing in the middle now, so I enjoyed it probably a little bit more, but yeah, I think we have plenty of time to talk about.
Probably a good time for me to walk across and speak to Mark and see how he felt about it. You had a great race, Mark. The tyres worked well for you, the early part. You had a great start. It's not always your strongest suit, but you're in good shape at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, the first part of the Grand Prix went very well for us. I think very tricky conditions for all of us on the intermediates to start with. And in the end, yeah, we got the right strategy. I think early in the race on the inters, getting this crossover quite nice. And then just really it was controlling the race and getting everything in place really towards the back end of the race. Obviously I had to mark Lewis off a little bit in the middle there. And then after this last stop, obviously the team told me that the race was over, and we turned the engines down and we go to the end. So I won a race as well, but in the end the team made a decision, which we always say before the start of the race is probably how it's going to be. We look after the tyres, get the car to the end, and in the end Seb made his own decisions today, and we'll have protection as usual, and that's the way it goes.
So you were surprised when he came past you?
Yeah, well, I turned my engine down and started cruising on the tyres, and then the fight was on. So anyway, we know he's a quick peddler, but I was disappointed with the outcome of today's race, and in the end, team did a good job. I had some good fans here from Australia, so thanks, guys. I did my best, and yeah, cheers.
Can you take any positives away from today?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of things which I did pretty well. So from my driving wide, like I say, at the start, the inters, there's a lot of areas where you can get that wrong, obviously like Fernando, which is unusual for him. So in the end, the consistency of the pace, obviously you've got to drive very slow on these tyres. We're not pushing flat out as usual. All the leaders are driving very slow to save the tyres.
Okay, you're all sort of kind of happy, unhappy up here today. It's been that kind of race. But at the end of the day, Sebastian looking pretty good at this stage again for the championship. Not obviously in the long term, but for your championship position at least, it's been a great day.
Yeah, I think in that regard it's obviously a long race, so it's good at this stage of the year to score points, and we go from there. But thinking about the championship right now, I think it's way too early. So I think it was a great race for the team today. I think we did better on the tires than we expected. Obviously it dried pretty quickly, but we had a pretty clean race in terms of tires after that.
Okay.
I will say, I sympathize with Mark Webber at very few points along this timeline, but Sebastian Vettel getting up there and being like, I just really enjoyed racing him. And also, I'm going to read you their answers from the press conferences. Like, I would not have blamed Mark Webber if he challenged him to a fight, like, on that podium. Because, and he was a huge bitch about it. So don't get me wrong. I'm going to read you some selections from the press conference now. So the question is, Mark, obviously emotions are still very high, but were the situation reversed in the future, would you stick to an agreement and turn down the engine and hold station, or would you ignore the call going by what happened today and pass Seb? Mark says, I wish I could do an Australian accent, but I really can't. I think that question is not going to be answered right now. Let's just say there were a lot of things going through my head in the last 15 laps of the Grand Prix. Lots of reasons, not from today, but also from the past. We'll see what happens. We've got 3 weeks before the next race. Okay, next question. Mark, as has been mentioned, emotions are clearly raw, but firstly, do you accept Seb's apology? I would have been like, fuck no. Because that's not been mentioned yet. And secondly, again, emotions are raw, but when you have a teammate who does ignore team orders, and does it make you consider your future with the team, maybe even in Formula One? Mark Webber, my mind in the last 15 laps was thinking many things. Yes, many things. Apparently, Brazil 2012 wasn't one of these many things that Mark Webber was thinking over during the last 15 laps. And I would just like to say, this is not the only time Mark Webber has blatantly disregarded team orders. Brazil 2012 is by far the most egregious, but there was also Silverstone 2011 when he openly admitted that he received, quote, probably 4 or 5, unquote, messages from the team asking him not to attack Seb, but declined to follow them. Mark explained his choice. Of course, I ignored the team because I wanted to try and get a place. Seb was doing his best. I was doing my best. I wasn't going to crash with anyone. I tried to do my best with the amount of one-way conversation I was having. I was trying to do my best to pass the guy in front. Do we think that he was doing his best? And listen, fair enough, Mark Webber. That's from Autosport, by the way. Fair enough, Mark Webber. But to then throw what can only be described as a massive temper tantrum over this situation, weird, hypocritical, whiny are some words I would ascribe. I will say, Sebastian Vettel's spin zone on this was kind of insane. He kept saying that it wasn't intentional and that it was an accident. And on the team radio, as you heard, he's like, I was scared. Like, Jesus took the wheel, quite literally. He couldn't help it. You know what I mean? It was the Lord driving that car. He was possessed by a demon. I don't know what he means by it was like, how do you pass someone accidentally? I guess maybe he was like, Mark was going so slow and he had to like go around to the outside to avoid. I think that's a little bit of a stretch, personally. But I will say, China, obviously this spilled over. China was the next race. And this is where we got 2 of truly the most iconic Sebastian Vettel quotes of all time.
Well, how do I feel? I think generally, unfortunately, people didn't see that we performed well on the day. As a team, I think we did a very good job. We got a fantastic result. I think we had a very strong weekend in Australia already. But yeah, maybe didn't get quite the result we wanted. But in Malaysia, I think we were surprised again to, you know, being at the top, racing at the top, and the whole race. I think, yeah, we worked excellently well with the tires, etc. So I think that's what people forgot. Obviously, what stuck to their heads is the way the race ended. But I think, as I said, there's not much more to add than what happened. I told the team straight after. I apologized for putting myself above the team, which I didn't mean to do. But yeah, there's not much really more
not much more to say really. I don't apologize for winning. I think that's why people employed me in the first place and why I'm here. I love racing, so yeah, and that's what I did. Obviously, we learned quite a bit from the first two races. China will be different again, different circuit, different climate. So I think we're still in the learning process. Obviously, the first two races helped a lot, and I think it was very obvious for everyone to see that working with the tires and trying to make the tires last is crucial. It determines your strategy and then therefore determines your race and the result. So I think we still got a lot to learn, but I think we made some improvements. We tried to, tweak the car a little bit to help that. And yeah, but on the other hand, we'll still have to, come here, come to China and set the car up on Friday, see where we are, see how long the tires last, and go from there.
And the final one that I have on this reject t-shirt, because it's actually like not exactly the right quote and it's Instagram font. I don't know. I want to do this quote somehow, but I haven't found a version that I like yet. But formulawhatever.co/shop if you want to buy, not this t-shirt, but I have lots of them.
In the moment it might be different, but I'd probably do the same. And then for the future, I think, like I said, it's not the end of the world here. At the end of the day, I cross that cross at paddock entrance every morning because, I do something that I love. I love racing. I love coming here. I love, working with the team, with the guys. I enjoy that a lot, and it gives me so much satisfaction. I can't think of anything else that gives me that much pleasure. So, I think bottom line is I don't want to forget that. So sometimes you have maybe easier, sometimes more difficult times, but in the end of the day, I'm here for that, and that's what I enjoy most. And the next time I'm in the car is tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that.
Seb, after the race, Christian told us... Hello. After the race, Christian told us that after you disobeyed his order, there was no point in him getting back on the radio to you because you'd made your decision, intimating that you're possibly above reproach. You've already said you don't want to talk ill of Mark, because it's better to say nothing than to say something horrible about him. Is it not true that this is now your team? The decisions that you make are the ones that are affecting this team? That Christian essentially is no longer in control here? I don't think that's not right. But if he can't give you an order that you're going to follow, then surely he no longer leads.
I think the circumstances for that have a different nature. Surely not his position. I think he's the boss. He's in control of all the employees, and he's leading the team. So I think I'm not, in any other position than I am. I'm the driver. So. And you've broken a team order. You've broken a direct request and have received no sanction for it. So well, I did speak up and I did apologize, and I meant it. Sanction, as in punishment. What do you, maybe it's a little bit of dreamland that you all live in, but what do you expect to happen? What make a suggestion. But I think we dealt with it internally. As I said, I did apologize to the team. I took it very serious. I went to see the team as soon as I could, the whole team, not just the people working here. And I told them as well.
Sebastian Vettel, the man that you are. But I feel like public opinion has really come around on this, because maybe I've just blocked every Seb hater on the internet by now. But I feel like normally when I see people talking about it, it's in a pretty positive light. I think that people recognize that it's pretty funny and iconic. But at the time, people were big mad about this. And Mark Webber, this really helped him pour more into truly like the victim mentality is really the only way to put it. Like, he put out his book, and I'm not going to include anything in here from that because I haven't read Mark Webber's book. I don't want to. I actually think I did read it like a while ago, but I just downloaded a copy on, like, I'm a Mark Webber hater. If that man has 0 haters, I'm dead. But he in this book is indignant about the situation still in 2015. I mean, I guess that shouldn't surprise me because he's still complaining about that fucking Silverstone wing upgrade that he didn't even want in the year of our Lord 2020. Like, actually happened 14 years ago, and he's still bitching about his wing upgrade. And also, that's like the only solid proof he has of him Red Bull giving him and Seb different cars, which is like essentially what he always alludes to. But I I feel like the narrative has really turned around on it. Okay, this isn't just like a Mark Webber hate video. It's supposed to be educational, and he and Seb are good today. I think he's great when he does the interviews. He's really good on, like, I don't actually dislike Mark. I don't know the man. But that is your F1 lore lesson for today.